Hello and welcome to Flory Models. See, usual thing. What's he doing behind my back? Can't see him, what he's up to. He always worries me. Welcome back to Flory Models Live. Hopefully we're streaming okay. If anybody can, text us if you know our numbers and bits and pieces and tell us if we're not doing it correctly. Sound, usual bits and pieces like that would be very helpful. In fact, text Steve. Because I think my phone's all on silent and everything. So if you can text Steve and let him know if we're too quiet, if we're too loud, which way and the other, and then we can fix it all on the fly. Because I say it's the first time we've done a live broadcast since Christmas. So, but this is our new slot. We're going to be doing usually the last Sunday of the month will be Q&A with the three of us as we work our way around and everything else like that. So if you post the questions up, we've already been through the questions, we've got some of the answers ready for you, so hopefully it makes it a little bit more concise and everything else like that. Now we've also got new camera angles and things, so let's just try this one. So first of all, we've got Hans is with us.
Hello. How are things going?
Hello. Looking very nice there with a very almost finished frog foot. Mind you,
Yeah.
You've got a very tricky paint scheme coming up on with that one.
It'll be fun.
It'll be fun, definitely. We've also got the Armour God, who's giving up on armour. No, he's not. It's a joke. But there he is, King. He's been obviously growing a beard.
Yeah, very cold up north at this time of year, so...
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Be having a shed, will you, in the spring? We'll take him down from the hills. It'll be all right.
Just debating whether or not to leave it till Telford. I don't know.
Well, at that rate of growth, it would be like, you know, you'll be able to plait it and like throw it over your shoulder, use it as a scarf.
It shouldn't. If you want me to keep it, you donate to charity.
Oh, so every week he disappears under a face full of fuzz. And me. Hopefully, there we go. Cameras are very slow today. And me. So, usual thing, guys. You can post up your questions. Say we've pre-done pretty much tonight's one. It's only going to be about 2 hours, and we're going to be with you. But between obviously all three of us, hopefully we'll be able to make our way through and give you some good advice and answer any questions you have and everything else like that. Remember, this type of show, what we're trying to do is basically sort of the more questions which are sort of general things. Okay, so that way we're not just focusing on specific topics and things like that. It's more of a general thing, but obviously if it's the same questions week after week, we probably skip them and divert your attention to where we have spoke about them before. So if it's in there and you don't get your question read out in the forum and all the rest of it, what we will do is post along a little note and say we haven't done this one because we covered it on this bit of show, and also if you have a look at the here and here and everything else like that. That way we're not just keep going over the same thing every single week and everything else like that. So then, guys, bit of a roundup. So Hans, show us your work then. What have you been up to?
Oh, all right. As most of you guys know, I've been working on this trumpeter SU-25. It's actually an M1. It started out as an A, 32nd scale. Basically making mods slowly but surely and going into a Ukrainian digital scheme. Let me see if I can get this cockpit off. There we go. Let's see. There you go. You can see the.
There you go. Yeah, definitely.
The tracker ball, and it's got the HUD's in. The ejection seats are done. Everything's kind of rubbed down right now. I'm slowly but surely starting to re-rivet and working the panel lines carefully. All the pylons are on. Let's see if we can show the back end. Here we go.
Yeah.
Wrong way. Let's go that way. And we'll flip over to the back side. There we go.
Very cool.
You can see the wheel well detail. So it's getting there. Slowly but surely doing some modifications on the bottom end with all the little drain tubes that are missing from the kit. And like the chafe buckets, cleaned all of those up. There's like some little access hatches, I think, is what they are, and sanded them off and replaced them with some little lenses, believe it or not, from little cars. And once you paint them up, they just look like little bumps, and you can't even see it anymore. But yeah, it's coming together quite nicely right now. So I just ordered some more Edward PE for it yesterday. Want to do a couple of panels on there, so but pretty happy with that.
Very nice.
It's
So
basically
you've got
go
sorry.
ahead.
I was going to say, you've got the pylons on now. Is it not digital under there?
No, it's not. It's a single scheme, just a single color. It's
Oh, that's all right
very
then.
yeah, very similar to the F-16, kind of that bluish gray, light gray scheme. It's very odd compared to everything else, which is kind of a very gray scheme, or like a cold gray. And then the bottom it has like a bluish tone to it. So everything is painted just a blue color, and that's it. So I think when they repaint them, they just spray them in the booth like that and don't even take the pylons off. I could be wrong.
Cool. No, it's looking really, really nice and very speedy work as well, because that's really coming together very, very quickly.
Yeah, so pretty excited about that. All my weapons are almost done, I guess. I shouldn't say all the way done. I'm just working on one more set right there.
Yeah.
Kind of swapping out my idea of using these long four. Let me grab those real quick. These guys is what I was originally going with right here, but these were used in Afghanistan to do cave busting and all that stuff, and they don't use these in the Ukraine. At least I cannot find a single picture of these being used out there, so I'm going to forego on these and go back to just the regular short stack rocket tubes. Yeah. So there we are.
Very good. Very cool. Okay, so hold on, we've lost Steve. No, there he is. So then, Steve, what have you been up to?
Quite busy. Well-ish. First of all, get it. Working on the old A10. Which
Very nice.
So far, it's going all right. Got the true details cockpit in. Yeah, it's going well. None of these real horror stories that you hear about this kit. You know, there is the usual where I need to do a bit of filling on the wing roots, and but apart from that, you know, it's going together quite well. So,
very nice indeed.
So it's quite big if you look compared to the Eurofighter. Harrison. So
yeah. The trouble with the A10 is because it's very square, as in it's a cross.
Yeah.
Putting it somewhere, you can't poke it in the corner because it doesn't fit, you know, and everything else. It's just one of those tricky aircraft to place once you've built it at that scale, you know. So it takes up a lot of room.
Yeah, it does. And I've also been doing some work on the Missouri after about best part of 2 years. So I'm frozen on that.
I know. Hold on, give it a sec. Hopefully you'll come back. For some reason the connection's a little bit slow there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't know why. Hans's is good. Yours is just a little bit jerky. Hold on, let me just try all three. See if that improves anything. He is a bit of a slideshow. Have you got anything running on Wi-Fi whilst you're there?
Oh well, could be anything. But I'm hardwired in, you see, so.
Yeah, it just breaks down the signal a little bit. That's what I just find on mine. There you go. You seem to be right now. Go on, go for it.
Oh, the Missouri, yeah, back on that. So I'll show you some of the stuff. Be careful here. So you've got kind of. Oh, God, I hate handling this. So obviously that's one of the main
Funnels.
Obviously the look at on top and all Photoetch, and that's another part. You can see it takes forever doing all this Photoetch work. So it's turn brass that they give you. I've also done all of the main guns. There's still machine gun nests to do, anti-aircraft nests to do on a couple of them, but that gives you an idea. So yeah, looking really good.
Cool. So you have been very, very busy.
Yeah, but it's amazing how long you look at it and think, well, there's not that many parts, but it takes forever. doing this. Like there's loads of little. You probably can't even know it. The camera won't pick it up. There's loads of little support, right-angled supports down there, and so obviously you have to put each one of them on, tidy it up, and because they're so small, it's really fiddly work. So it can take you probably an hour just to put, half a dozen of them on. So
yeah,
a lot of work going into it, but yeah, it's looking good. It's getting there. But it's nice getting back to it, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the thing, is because you've had a little bit of a break, sometimes it's difficult to get back into it, isn't it? But you've certainly got back on there nicely. Pushing through with that one. Very good indeed.
So yeah, so that's been about it, really.
Very nice. Well, and for me, well, as I say, I haven't done anything. I've got 2 parts edited, so you've got parts 1 and 2, which get you literally to where we are now. Part 2, I'll probably pop the gun in so you can see it, but hopefully this will work. I haven't played with this camera too much. Hold on. Come on, there we go. So I put in the electronics bay down on that side. That one's in now and installed into it. And as I said, we've got the battery bay on the A10 in there is done as well. Also, we've done the bits on the inside, working out exactly how that all fits in there. I don't know, how did you find yours fit in there, Steve, with your cockpit on the A10?
Yeah, it took a bit of faffing around and getting it into position, because there's no to hold it in position.
No, that's right, yeah.
And then hardest bit, we'll try to get the instrument panel and a little bit of combing to fit. Now mine looks slightly off, a bit of the tilt to it. It's not perfectly straight, but it took quite a lot to get it all crammed in, if you have a look.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
no, it's a bit of it's a fit and a half, that one, to fit it in, because you say there's just no guide and there's no anything to hold the cockpit in position, is it? So you sort of pack it in and glue it roughly in place and hope.
Also, when they were putting the all the weighting, so in prevent coming a tail sitter, I used PVA glue. So loads of that shot, PVA glue, put it in there, and left it a few days to dry, and it looked nice and clear, did the PVA glue on the top. Anyway, so I thought, oh, I'll carry on. They obviously aren't fully cured at the back.
Yeah.
So I've got
peeled off.
It shot absolutely everywhere, chunks of it. But I'm going to leave this little part off the top, so if needs,
GPS antenna,
I can just drop a bit of super glue in there and just put a load more like shot in if it needs it.
Yeah.
So it helps if you don't follow the instructions where it says glue the front 2 bits together then to the rear. I just glued and made 2 halves. So so that side to the rear bit and same on the other side, and then brought them together. That's the best way. But there's a bit of a gap, you can see there on the wing root. There's a bit nice little gap that will need filling, but apart from that, it's going together quite well.
Very nice. So we're getting there. Well, I did something slightly different, because inside this is the actual ammo container for the gun, for the GAU 8. So this is full of lead, which is my way of doing the weight, because I had the actual shaped lead weight for it. So we've popped that one in there. So hopefully that'll be enough weight to hold it down. The only thing is it won't sit on its own because it's full of lead. Okay, so there's that guy. We've also made the actual tracking system. Instead of the actual bit it gives you, which is terrible, you get like the bullets and you're supposed to sort of bend them around on a track, but we've actually got the actual feeder in those, so that one's done as well. And then obviously we've got the gun, and as we've spoken about, I've got various barrels that I've collected over the years, but we will be using the actual proper master ones. But I'm going to fit that as a last thing. But generally we're pretty good. What I'm going to do is paint the cockpit up tomorrow morning, get that one done, and then we get it installed, put that in, then the gun can all go in here, we'll make up the wheel well, get that in there, so the entire front bit will be ready to sort of button up and go together with all the bits in there. But it's quite nice because we've got the little panels open, it does it, we've got the panel underneath, so we will see that gun work underneath here, so we'll be able to look up inside, see the gun area and everything else like that. So in some ways it should be quite nice, just a little bit more detail on there just to bring it to life, but generally that's about what we got with it.
Have you fully taken the casting block under the cockpit.
Yeah, yeah. Belt sander.
Yeah. You should be okay then, because there is a slight problem when you come to put the wheel bay in.
Oh, right.
Up. So it goes on eventually, but I hadn't fully taken it all off. So it caused a little bit of an issue, but you should be all right there.
Yeah, I must admit, I just attacked it with a belt sander. And before it's painted, you could actually see a little bit through it. It was getting very thin, so I thought, I've got to be close, isn't it? That'll do. And so, yeah, it takes care of it instantly. Thank God for tools. Right, well, we'll do some questions then. Who wants to read the first one? I'll do the first one, and then we'll
right. Sorry,
right.
I was on mute right there.
Oh, right. Okay. So Dennis was asking, says, "Hi guys, after 25 years of owning my own airbrush, I've still got a question regarding how to properly hold a dual action airbrush. After joining the Flory Models 2 years ago, I switched from the Badger 200 single action to a Harder and Steenbeck Infinity. Since then, it seems after a few minutes of spraying, my right hand index finger cramps up on the trigger. And this is I'm not able to control the amount of paint anymore. When I'm trying to move the trigger, that's it, Hans is there. When I'm trying to move the trigger forward and aft in such a large movements, I'm either getting no paint or flood the model with paint. I'm sure this is because I'm not used to moving the trigger forward or aft after using the single action airbrush. And that's about 5 kits per year. I'm not using the airbrush very often and regular. So what can I do to prevent my index finger from locking up? So Hans got a good one on the go there. I've got my other one here. So that's it. Everyone hold your airbrush, and we can see how we hold our airbrushes in comparison. So I'm this type of action. I have my middle finger underneath the airbrush slightly, but not a lot. It just sort of takes a bit of the weight. Actually, I'm the same as Hans. I'm pretty much the same. I tend to hold at the back here. My thumb rests onto just below the body, the top of the body area, and then I push down and obviously back and forth for air. Steve's the same. Yeah,
actually tell it's wearing away where it says see how close.
Yeah, I got the same problem right there. See that?
Yeah, definitely.
That's where I always hold
rubbing the gold off there. Yeah.
I think the big trick is to relax your hand, right? Is relaxing it. I just lay it in there like that, and lightly hold it and lightly pull this back. Now, granted, it takes practice, right? Relax your wrist while you're airbrushing. Yeah. The other thing that I can recommend is there's a spring in here. Let's see if I can show that. There is a spring in here. There we go. Let's get that guy out right there.
Yeah, the return spring, yeah.
Return spring, and some people really crank these really, really tight. You can loosen that up just a hair if you have this particular airbrush, of course. That might help a little bit.
You said it's got the Infinity, and that comes with a little tool. This gold band here with the holes in, just there. You can put the tool in there and turn it, and it adjusts the how much torque.
No, sorry, it doesn't. If you put a gold in there, all that does will unlock the midsection here. This enables you to come off. To do that, to loosen off the trigger, you've got this dial here. So if you slacken this right off, it releases the tension on the trigger. So this actually rotates all the way back. You can see it's coming right the way open now. You can see loads of thread. And now this becomes really, really soft and floppy. So you get lots and lots of control on this because what you've done is actually slacken off the spring like Hans has done on his. But actually on the Infinity, you have a mode, you can pull this right back. And this really's got it's really soft. And then if you screw it all the way closer, this guy here, so it's just this little one here, this collar here, you do it all the way up. This is now really snappy, and you can go forward all the way. And what it does, it basically it shortens the travel distance of this spring. So this makes it really now very punchy. I must admit, I tend to have mine about halfway, but that's probably what I've been used to because it's sort of come with it. You know, and it gives you a nice amount of travel and all the rest of it. And same goes, we've spoken about it before. If your airflow on the top, the actual here, if you find you've got hardly any movement on here at all, and it's either all or nothing, if you undo under here, you'll actually see a little cross slot and just a slot there. If you loosen that off, you'll give more play onto here as well, which gives you more action. Or you can screw it all the way up and literally it's just on or off then. That's the only options you'll get. So by loosening off both of these, you get more travel movement. But again, the thing is with all of these, it's personal choice. You know, it's somewhat what you get used to. I tend to have quite a lot of play on this one here for the air. So I've got a lot of movement going up and down on the air. And then I've got about halfway on the back. But again, I think it depends on the guys, what they're all into. For all of these, you know, what type of motions they like. Because yeah, that gold one, Steve, if you undo that one there, that just releases that entire back section, doesn't it? So you can take the actual sit off, but you get the little tool to help you get it undone, because it doesn't like coming off this bit here. So it just goes in there like that. Always undo the nut at the back to release your needle.
Yeah, I just have mine as tight as I can because I like to, you know, feel a lot of tension on the trigger.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's different.
I was going to say, it's literally that thing, isn't it? With airbrushes, it's like driving other people's cars. If you drive like a manual car, you get in somebody's car and the clutch is completely different to yours and the brakes. Yeah. And you're like, Jesus, how do you drive with this? You know, to be honest, Mills Classic, her clutch is so high, it's like, you know, Christ sake, you take your foot off and you're everywhere. It's like, how'd you do it? But she loves it. That's how she drives. She's used to it. She gets in mine, be all over the place. So it is that thing. It's one of those things. It's what you used to and everything else. But really, like Hans says, the only advice I can give about, you know, not locking up, relax your shoulders. You know, because everything travels down your arm, and also it is that thing of just having, you know, light, dusty strokes, things like that. It's just that thing of movement, of being very fluid with your airbrush, and the same goes for your hand. The bit where you're a little bit hunched up and you're in close, you know, it's all tight, you know, and before you know it, you're either all or nothing with your airbrush. If you relax, lean back a little bit, okay, let's be nice and relaxed and everything, you might find that your hand doesn't cramp up as much and all the rest of it for you because you're just more relaxed into it and all the rest of it. Again, get yourself out a little bit of paper or plastic card and just practice and just play with it and just get used to it. Don't worry about having to paint a model and the stresses of wrecking it and ruining it. Have a play with something else. Remember, you know, that's what it's for. Practice, practice, practice. Airbrushing, it's like driving a car. It takes hours of practice to get proficient at it. And then once you're proficient at it, you're always learning forever more. You know, different ways of doing it, different techniques. But I've seen everyone knows Brett Green sprays like this. You know, which to me is like, what the hell? How the hell do you spray like that? But you're literally jamming your thumb down. I have a theory, it's because he's using an Aztec airbrush, and that's what they need to work. But, you know, it is that thing. Everyone has their own particular way of spraying. I know guys who spray somewhat on the side as well, and I can't even understand how they can see what they're looking at. But it works for them, and that's what we say with the entire hobby. There's no right or wrong. If that's how you do it and it works for you, brilliant. You know, it just doesn't work for everybody else that way, or, you know, you say the way I do it is not necessarily the right way, but it's what works for me. And it obviously works for the rest of the guys. So yeah, that's about it. Because it says on there, also I see Phil holding his airbrush differently to what I've seen most other people hold them. As again, it's a personal choice, whatever works for you. Okay, go on in, Hans, read one out.
All right, next one is from Chris Robinson. It's basically intercompatibilities between lacquer enamels and acrylics. So the first question is, can I use AK Interactive Landing Gear Wash, which is an enamel base, over Tamiya acrylic paint if it has been given a pledged floor care coat? The answer is, at that point in time, once you have your pledged floor coat on there, you can for sure. I would always recommend anything with pledge. 24 hours, let it dry, let it cure before you start putting anything on there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely agree on that. The thing is, if you're using AK interactive stuff, it's enamel based, which means it's pretty safe on acrylic. It won't eat into it like a lacquer based paint would or another acrylic would. It should flow, but like everything, if you're rubbing at it and scrubbing at it, isn't it, you're going to start to eat into it, the surface that you're going onto. But like Hans said, I would always recommend any type of clear coating, especially the floor polishes and stuff like that. You know, give those 24 hours to dry totally.
Yeah. Hold on. I was going to show. I guess he's talking about like these kind of washes right here.
Yeah.
You know, this one's MIG, but you know, same stuff.
Yeah, I've got the AK ones here.
Yeah. So he's talking about those kind of washes, you know. But anything with a little bit of pledge or future, we'll take care of it.
Yeah, always put that, because if you use enamel washes like this neat straight onto Tamiya paint,
Yeah.
and the matte stuff, it will stain it.
Yeah, we'll stain it for sure.
Fully. Also, always put a coat of clear on.
Yeah.
All right. Second question is, can I spray MRP paint over Tamiya acrylic? For example, if I spray a canopy first with Tamiya to give it the internal canopy color, can I then spray the external color in MRP straight over to Tamiya? You know,
Yeah, I've done it. Yeah.
You can for sure. The big trick is a light dusty coat the first time when you put the first coat of MRP paint onto the Tamiya acrylic coat. But they're fine as long as you don't flood it. You should be okay.
Yeah, the big thing I learned is obviously when I was using the metallizers on the Mustang, we had trouble with the fuel tank, if you've seen that episode, and it just wouldn't sit to it. And what it was, I'd overcooked it, as in I'd gone in there with too much paint. When I did the main body of the aircraft and all the rest of it, we never had a single problem. And I was going over Tamiya gloss acrylic. Again, usual thing, make sure it's totally cured. Like we were saying with, you know, using clear coats, give it 24 hours, make sure it's totally gone off. If it's wet in any way, it's going to react. But you're okay to go over it as long as it's dry. But dusty coat first, get that base onto it, then you can layer it up. As soon as you've got a layer of paint down there, you can go for your life. But it's getting that initial layer onto it. So just be a light dusty coat for that first pass. Let it sit for a couple of moments, then go back in a slightly heavier one. By the time you're into 3 and 4 passes over it, you'll be good to go. But don't think you're going to go in there with one big wet coat, because it ain't going to work. It's just going to bubble off of it because technically it's an acrylic and it's a lacquer paint. They don't like each other. They will react. And that's what I had trouble with the tank, because it was in such a small confined area. I just went too heavy, you know, and it bit me a little bit. But as you said, when I went back to it, dusty coat over it, second coat, third coat, no problem at all, and we were good to go. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, and then the third question is kind of the reverse of the first one somewhat. He's talking about doing his first armor kit, which is a Tamiya Tiger 1. If I paint with a Tamiya acrylics, can I then use an enamel wash straight over the Tamiya paint, or do I need to give it a pledge coat first? Or should I use acrylic washes? So like Steve was hinting at, you know, you should really do a pledge coat no matter what before you do an enamel wash over it. Acrylic washes, depending on what it is, you might be able to get away with it, but if you're learning weathering, it's always good to have a clear coat just to protect the paint. I think I have some acrylic washes somewhere. Thinking here, Phil.
Yeah.
I did have some somewhere. I don't
Vallejo do a range of washes and things like that, don't they? So I must admit I haven't got any of those.
Yeah, there's some Citadel that I have that are.
Yeah.
But even those tend to bite into the paint. So anything with a clear coat is a good idea.
Yeah, I think obviously the thing is that, and I'm guilty as other people, because recently I've been taking, you know, a few little shortcuts, and it's always bitten me. Instead of getting a clear coat down, 24 hours, let it dry, come back in. But you know, through time pressures and just thinking, right, we're going to push on with it, I've tried to cut a few corners, and every single time it's come back and bitten me. Instead of getting a clear coat down, so if you're happy with your paintwork, clear coat it before you move on to the next steps, i.e. weathering and stuff like that. It will give you a good protective barrier between your paintwork and obviously what you're doing next. So if you do have some problems, you can get an option to get it off and to get it back, because you've got that little bit of protection, and it's always well worth spending a little bit of time just to give you that. So yeah. Right, Steve, do you want to do the next one?
Right, where are we?
Are you awake?
No, I'm awake. Right, we're on Mark Roberts.
Yeah.
He's having trouble trying to find the best colour match for the F-15D Modern Eagle camo. What would us lot recommend to be straight from the ball? My local hobby shop carries guns, Tamiya, Model Air, but I'm happy to try something different. Cheers, Mark.
Where's my paint Bible? I've lost my paint Bible. Well, Hans has got the general option, which is the MRP ones, which do a very good colour for them, isn't it? So the Modern Eagle Grey is, which Hans, you can probably read the FS number off of there better than I can see it on MRP.
Sure.
93, isn't it?
It's FS 36 251 and 36 176. So 36 251, 36 176.
Yeah, that's your federal standard numbers. And to be honest, I've put down somewhere. Let me check. What have I done with it? It's around here somewhere. Sorry, our fault. It was on the VR earlier, and I've moved everything. There it is. Okay. The thing is, with the Modern Eagle colours, the only other one I know of is the MRP, and I don't think I've actually got an extra acrylics. They do them as well as the acrylic form, and I don't have a conversion for those. And to be honest, we don't have a conversion chart available yet for MRP paints. So your federal standard number, let me just see if I've got my FS codes things here. Let's say one of the questions that came up was about my little paint Bible here. The thing is, recently, over the last few years, it's totally out of date because we've got so many different manufacturers and things around now. Sorry, can you read out the federal standard codes again, Hans?
Sure, it's 36 251 and 36 176.
Yeah. So.
You know,
Yeah,
just
see,
by
there's nobody actually. Testers do it as in 2036, but you said you're not having that. And Polyscale do it as in 505232, but they are not the only ones for the federal standard 36176. So nobody's actually doing it. Extra acrylics, I'm sure they do it because it's a funny blue.
yeah,
Well, they called it Pacific, wasn't it? But it became the standard Modern Eagle colour scheme for all of them. But they used to call it the Pacific F-15 Pacific colour. But they all went into that colour scheme some years ago.
I don't know if you can see that, but the closest in the Mister color is 305. Might be a little darker than the Mister paint.
Yeah, we haven't got you as an overhead. We've just got you as side on, mate.
All right, and then the Mister color on 36 251, I would say 306. Although that's a little too bluish of a tint. But that would be close to the eye, but not.
Yeah,
I don't have an example of Tamiya. Let me see if I can find someone for Tamiya that's close.
Yeah, well, to me, it isn't going to be close at all, to be honest, because there's nothing in that sort of range. They tend to use the spray cans for call-outs for those ones.
Not really.
So, yeah, bit tricky on that one.
Because they brought out a load of new paints, haven't they?
Who's that?
The Leo brought out about 30, 40 new colours.
Yeah, they have. As I say, I don't know about the Modern Eagle colours though. I've got a lot of their ones down here. The new 200s, isn't it? So you've got like dark gold greys, and you've got down here of like the median greys. They call it aggressor grey. I don't know quite how that stacks up in the great scheme of things. That's 251. Which number were we calling it? 251. There you go. So there you go. Vallejo to 171274. They're giving that out as Modern Eagle Grey. That'll be an equivalent on there. So that's one option. That's a new one on me. as I say, I haven't got their little conversion, but I do have around, just not to hand. But yeah, have a look at the Vallejo range. I'm pretty sure Vallejo have brought them out, because that's definitely one of them, and that is the medium grey colour. So you just need then the dark grey colour, because also it's the Raptor grey, isn't it? I think they call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, have a look at Vallejo. Sorry we can't be much more helpful than that one. There's me mousy mousy. So, on that thought, sorry, Bruno, he says, hello guys, I recently bought the Vallejo metal colours, 4 of them, did a little try and everything went well with the airbrush straight from the bottle. I tried with the brush on a small piece, it doesn't stick even after passing 3 or 4 coats. It's too watery and floody. I reckon I didn't put any primer on, it was just a quick test, but that was with an airbrush, it went smooth and easy. That's the trouble with it. If you're trying to hand paint it, it's incredibly thin. You need a primer coat on there. If you put a primer coat, like a bit of Tamiya, flat, of some description, grey or something else like that, you'll find it will stick to it because it's got something to bite onto. But if you're trying to put this stuff onto neat plastic, it won't break the surface tension because it's not thick enough. There's not enough sort of, you know, gumph in it to be able to do it because it's too watery, so it just sits on the surface. But if you put down a little bit of primer of something first, just a little bit of Tamiya flat grey or something else on there, and then go over it, you'll find it will got something to etch into, and it goes on beautifully. Because I've done quite small parts, it's my standard way of doing it. So if I've painted it in another colour, I'll go round then afterwards and just hand paint with it, and you'll find, because it's very thin, it lays beautifully. But it does definitely need a primer coat if you're going to try and hand paint it. I don't know about doing anything big. I've only ever done pipes and small bits and pieces with it. I haven't tried anything big with it. Have you tried them with a hand brush? Yeah, that's it, doing it that way. If yes, what were your results? There we go. On the other hand, I tried the Rebel acrylics and the little pots sold with the kits. Personally found that the aluminium was spot on, absolutely gorgeous, and it applied either with a brush or with an airbrush with lots of confidence. That is what you think of their range. To be honest, I haven't really tried. We've tried the pots and we joke about them because they're very thin, which makes them incredible value for money because you need to thin them forever because they're really thick. And everything else like that. Hand painting, no problem at all with them, they're beautiful. Airbrushing, I just find them a little bit thick and heavy going. Any played with them much, Steve?
Not Rebel paints, I won't be rushing out to buy them either. No thanks, Rebel, but if I'm brush painting, I prefer use Vallejo model colour or even the normal Model Air.
Yeah, definitely. Han, do you ever hand painted with the old Rebels or anything? Do you
No,
even get Rebels in your neck of the woods?
You can't even get them over here. At least I haven't been looking for them. I don't think you can get them over here. I hand paint, Vallejo works really well. And to be honest, actually hand painting the extreme metals, believe it or not, works pretty good. I've been playing with that lately. Yeah. They do brush very, very nicely. You just got to be quick. You find
as well, it needs a primer though. Yeah, you can't just paint with those directly onto bare plastic. It doesn't like it because, as I say, I had to go with them.
Yeah, I use a little bit of Mr. Color, and it needs to be really hard. 48 hours, and then you can hand brush, light touch, very quickly move it along with a very, very soft brush, and they do hand brush. But you can't go over and over and over again. Let it dry, wait for like a good 4 hours, and then do another coat really lightly. But that does work. But yeah, I can't say anything about Rebel paints. I just don't use them.
No. Okay, next.
All right.
Go for it, Hans.
All right. Let's see. Hold on one second. Scroll down again. What's the next one?
Number 6.
All right. I use Phil's paint bottle from time to time. I know it's a difficult task to keep going and updating with all the different color sets coming out, but sometimes I get confused these days. Do you think buying a set of paints for a particular era is the way to go, as certain paint companies are doing? As we all know, MIG, Ammo MIG, Vallejo, Hataka paints all come out with these little sets, I guess. Just a couple examples, I guess. There's the one example right there that I bought, and then there's this guy, for Russian tanks. And there's tons of these. Everybody's slowly but surely doing it. Even Meng is doing it, right? Which is, of course, the MiG paints.
Isn't it? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So they do make them like that. Sometimes it's handy just to buy a set like that. The hardest thing that I'm starting to find out is that you buy a set like that, and then 2 colors out of the 5 you end up not using, or you end up with a double. You already bought the single bottle. But if you're starting out in the hobby and just extending your paint range, that's a quick, maybe cost-effective way to get some colors to your range. But once you have a stack, it's sometimes you end up with some bottles that you can't use. So
yeah, I think with
it's a hit and miss situation more than anything.
Yeah, but also it's finding a paint that works for you.
Yeah.
Like we said about, we get people who love, like me, I love my Tamiya, Guns, Vallejo, MRP. They're my sort of go-to paints. But technically I've got duplicates now in my color range, because obviously I've got a lot of the MRPs now, but I've also got it in Vallejo. But I don't technically now spray so much Vallejo. I like using the MRP paint. So it is that thing. And also when you're buying box sets, again, just be careful, because you buy a box set, you're going to get duplicates, because they always have some overlap somewhere. Because obviously I bought a lot of the Vallejo box sets when they come out with the World War II stuff. We did it with the AK stuff. And you're going to start to get duplicates. But I would be more inclined to perhaps buy a bottle or 2 of a specific type, see if you get on with it. If you get on with it, then perhaps start getting the box sets into that one. But as Hans said, just be mindful of your duplicates and all the rest of it. But I'd be more concerned about a paint range that works for you and getting that range than just buying because it's in box sets of colour, because you might end up with, to be honest, a bit like the AK stuff. Not a great fan of the AK stuff. Don't get me wrong, I've used it, it works and everything else, but it's not as straightforward as using something else. So from that point of view, I've went out and bought 3 box sets of the AK stuff and probably won't use it, because I prefer other things up there. So just be mindful that you're spending your money in something that's going to work for you. Yeah. Okay, Steve, do you want to do the next one?
Yeah, of course I can.
Number 7.
Yeah, no, I'm not asleep yet. David Smith, hi Phil, Stephen, Hans. Phil, I watched your Wednesday vlog about rolling PE with the brush and a mouse pad. I bought the SU-27 you did as a 1-day build, and some PE for the exhaust nozzles. They're required to be rolled into a cone shape, and was wondering how you would do that. Also, would you like to give soldering the PE a try? And wondered if you had any tips on that. Thanks for the great site and content.
We've covered quite a bit on the Photoetch and all the rest of it. When you're rolling it, as we were saying, you can go out and buy dedicated roller sets that actually do it to that one, but because you're making a cone, you're just coming in from an angle, it will just be the same way as I showed when we did it on there. So you basically just get your mouse mat and your bit of Photoetch, so we've got like a bit here. And if you're going to be doing obviously a cone size, you're just going to be coming in on a diagonal like that. So like this is a flat bit, but you see it's curling like a spring and everything else, and then it's working it out to get it into that particular one. So you can just take it away a little bit, give it a bit more of a roll, and then depending on the size of your brush you're doing and how much pressure you put in, obviously the more pressure you put in, the tighter it'll be and everything else like that. But then obviously it works because it's springing back on itself, you can just open it up. But the trouble is when you're trying to get a perfect round shape, sometimes it's better perhaps to use something like a proper little jig for it, where you can do it to a set size rather than this way of doing it on the mouse mat, just trying to roll it, because sometimes you can get uneven type shapes and all the rest of it. But doing cones and stuff like that is pretty much the pinnacle of like Photoetch, to get it perfectly in that thing. Squares, right angles, they're a doddle. But doing cones and that can take a little bit more work. But it is that thing of literally just putting it in, giving it a bit of a roll, get it in. If it needs a bit more, put it down, roll it again until you're getting it at the top to the crossover point and all the rest of it. And then you can work it in. And again, you can do various things. you know, trying to find something that's roughly that size as well, to roll it round and to hold its shape and everything else, then personally I would go down the super glue route and try and do it. Soldering, you can do it. Steve actually introduced me to it. The paste, the soldering paste, is probably the easiest way you can possibly do it, which is, I've got a bottle of it still here, which I totally blame Steve for in every shape and form, this stuff, but was this stuff, which is called the mechanic solder paste. You can see it here, comes in this little pot, which is only 50 grams worth, but it is literally just a paste, as you can see it down in here, and you literally brush that on, and then you can just hit it with a flame, a little blowtorch, something else like that, and it will solder it instantly. So you don't have that thing of having to hold a bit of solder in one hand, and then you've got the soldering iron, then the photo etch, and trying to get it in there. That is so much easier and quicker to do it that way. But as I say, Steve introduced me to that a few years ago, wasn't it now, mate? You did that one.
Yeah.
But very, very good stuff, and I tend to use it for everything. It's just like the easiest thing because it's got the flux built into it already and all those bits and pieces as well, so it's nice and straightforward and easy, and you can just clamp it into a position how you've got it, put that paste onto it, hit it with the flame. You know, you've got the little blowtorch one, works perfectly well for it, instantly does it, and you're good to go, and you can do it literally just like that.
Yeah, when you're rolling a cone, ideally you want to find something that's round that fits nicely on the narrow part of the cone, and just concentrate on rolling that part. Don't worry about the top, just concentrate on rolling the bottom part into a circle, because obviously if you roll that part, the top will form on its own. But yeah, you can get, mine's downstairs at the moment, rolling sets for Photoetch, which if you're working with Photoetch a lot, I'd recommend you getting something like that. You can get either a rolling set that's got rollers, or you can get other types of tools that you hold and bend round. So you really want to go out and invest in one of them. But a lot of the time, I'll tell you what's quite good actually. If you get a set of different sizes of plastic rod, you get some of that, all different sizes. They're absolutely brilliant for rolling Photoetch. Like Phil uses a mouse mat, and then you just pick what size you need a rod and just roll it round back. And that's the easiest way of doing it. Or get a selection of brass rods.
Yeah, Hans has got the ones there. Look, that's a nifty set. Where'd you get that from?
Actually, funny enough, this comes off of they're called beadalon. The girls make like beads and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, for hard wire, curling and bracelets and earrings and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is.
You can just pick them up at Hobby Lobby instead of a model store, and they're much cheaper.
Yeah.
But they were pretty. This is a step set, but basically, you know, it allows you various round circles. You know, you just lay it across. And if I get past this, size, I just use like a paint jar to start rolling. Definitely. You know, or like even the simplest thing is like just using one of these bigger handles. Let me see if I can grab one. You know, even like these guys will work, right? Just use the back end of the handle right here. You just grab it, push it around, pull it, and it will actually form itself. But yeah, these are pretty handy. Just that over here in the U.S., Hobby Lobby has these. It's called the beat-along set. Yeah. I think I picked these up for like $12 maybe, something like that.
Mm-hmm. No, that's pretty cool. Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I must admit, like for me as well, if I'm sort of doing it, I'll do. Get the camera to go. Come on. I've got these as well, which are the brass ones. You've seen me use them. Pretty much solid brass.
Yeah,
but different sizes I've got here of them, and then obviously we've got different tubes, which obviously you can use for scratch building. But these are all telescopic inside each other as well, so you can. You know, you've got all the different ones if you wanted to, and you can just do them literally like that, which is quite a handy little things to have. And that way, same thing, you're just putting them down onto your mat, and you can literally just roll with it and then get the various different sizes you want. But a lot of it is a little bit of trial and error. You know, when you're rolling, you know, circles and cones and stuff like that, as we were saying before, pretty much that's hardcore. You know, it's not as straightforward and easy as, you know, perhaps doing normal boxes and doing all those cool things like that. But generally, when you're into this thing, when you start doing cones and coming in and being very precise with it, and nozzles and getting the turkey feathers to all sit nicely and everything else like that, it does take a little bit of work. Even when I was doing this guy, trying to bend this into the right shape, I was having to cut it and then pull it so it wasn't just all folding in on itself and looking horrible. It did take about an hour and a half fiddling around just to get it all in, folded in, and to be at the correct alignments and everything else like that. So again, it's one of those things. Photoetch is patience, you know, just taking your time, have a go with it, do a bit. If you're happy with it, flat stuff, piece of cake, you know, just putting it down, no problem. But when you get into complex curves and stuff like that, it is a little bit of an art form. It takes a little bit of time.
I've got to say, don't be afraid to anneal the Photoetch as well. Softens it. All you do is just take a lighter, so you know, just switch it on and hold with a pair of tweezers, hold your PE part into the flame until it goes red hot, and then just let it cool naturally, and it'll soften the PE a bit for you, and that way it just makes it easier to roll, especially cone shapes and circles. Because some PE, depending on the manufacturer, some's really thin and rolls beautifully. Other stuff's, you know, so thick. If you don't anneal it first, it don't roll properly, and it'll start creasing as you're rolling it, or get a little angle, and it just looks awful. So that's another little nice
definitely
technique you can use.
Okay, so Rob Lee says, hi guys, I have a question about pre-shading and black basing. Is it something, it's something I'd like to start doing. How to achieve the solid, non-patchy overall colour without obliterating the pre-shading of the black base? Now, we did speak about this before, and we were saying technically the whole point of doing pre-shading and especially black basing is to give you the motley, random type of weathered paint look. So in some ways, you do want to do it. The only thing I can think of, you were saying about how can you put it down without losing it, so you don't just overcoat it in one, which is obviously always the worry. I think that's really where you're going with this one. I recommend, and you'll hear me say it in all the videos, if you're doing pre-shading, black basing and all the rest of it, black basing's slightly different, but certainly with pre-shading, I thin the paint. So you over thin the paint a little bit. That means it's a little bit more opaque. So when you put it down, you will see the paint, as I explained in all of my videos, you put down the paint until the pre-shading disappears and it goes. Then what happens is, as the paint dries, the pre-shading comes through again. Okay, and you can see it a lot more. Black basing a little bit different because you're just building it up until it goes solid black, especially with greys and lighter colors. You can play with it a little bit more to bring it back up and all the different bits and pieces with it. But generally, if you thin your paint a little bit more than you normally do, it just makes it harder to cover, which gives you a bit more of a buffer between it being there and not. So if you think I put it down and it's disappeared, instead of that's it, it has gone now, you just let it dry and it'll naturally come back. And if you watch any of my videos, you'll see it, and I usually show it as well. We say, right, we'll put down a coat, little thin coat, and then it disappears. You wait, half an hour later, you look at it again, you can see all the pre-shading has popped through. But with black basing, slightly different, because you can see that as you're doing it, you're just lightly building it up by using random sort of swirling patterns all over the entire black until you've got that sort of marbled effect comes through. Okay, and then I would just do a nice little wet coat right over the top, just to blend it all in a little bit more. But you want that blotchiness and that untextured look, because that's what you're trying to achieve with it. Unless you really just want to have edges and various bits and pieces, and then it's just a case of, you know, heavy paint in one area, lighter paint in the other.
Here's a question. Whenever you look at a real aircraft, it's always darker in the center of the panels, a lot of them, because prime, and always where the seams are, all the lines of rivets, panel lines, it always appears lighter. But as modelers, we kind of do the opposite. If you look closely on a lot, especially on naval aircraft, always looks, obviously they're touching up the edges a lot more.
I was going to say, but that's more to do with corrosion control, isn't it?
If you look, it always seems a bit more darker. in the panels than it does on the lines.
The A10, as you're going to get to, will be a classic example. If you're going to do the grey scheme to it, that you can do some wonderful weathering for it, because it spends its life so low and slow, it picks up dirt like a car on a motorway or a freeway. So you can do some lovely weathering with that, because they do some nice touch-ups with those as well. So it's more like a naval aircraft than anything else. And as I say, when it shoots the gun, the crap coming out of it covers everything. That's why you get the nice streaky effects going down the fuselage, you know. But yeah,
I'm more of a fan of post shading rather than pre-shading. I think it looks a lot nicer, and you can control the effect a lot better.
Yeah, I must admit, when it comes to pre-shading black basing, not so much a fan of black basing. To be honest, used to do it years ago and sort of moved away from it. But with pre-shading, I just use that as a stage. So I put it down, and then that way I've got the dirtiness and the grime around those panels, and then, as you say, afterwards I'll go back in with post-shading and various things after it. But I always use it as like the foundation of the weathering. It's like the first stage, and it's no biggie if it disappears or you don't use it. It's there, so to speak, as my first sort of level of doing it. Hans, what do you pre-shade? Black basing?
I used to do a lot of
any?
pre-shading, and then actually end up post-shading afterwards, which to me works quite well. It's all a personal preference. It's an interpretation of what you see in the real world to the best of your capabilities with the tools you have. I have done some black basing. I think it's a lot of work. And it's very easy to overcook, and I've done it a couple of times, and it's very frustrating because you got to start all over again. But it does give very nice effects. There's some really cool schemes like the F-16s in Greece are good examples of that very, very heavy patchy kind of look in the paint. Some of the Dutch F-104s in the 80s are really, really patchy and just worn down to, and the German ones even, very, very worn down paint. So it just takes a lot of time to build up all these little squiggly lines. It's kind of fun though, just learning, dealing with very thin paint, right? And the big trick is overlaying it with a very, very thin layer of paint, like opaque. And Mr. Paints, we keep bringing it up, are very well suited for that kind of painting.
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about the Mr. Paint ones is because it's like spraying ink, you have a lot more control over it, because it's not all or nothing with those. You can literally build it up. And it's great to do sort of motley things and various things with it, because it just blends in very nicely with itself. You don't get that sort of grittiness that you get with acrylics and various things like that. So I must admit, that's why I'm quite a fan of those. Right, okay, so Gordon says, hi Finn and Steve, looking at the best way to tint canopies. I have an F-16, specifically the gold tint you've seen on US Navy Prowlers, A6Bs. We spoke about this, to be honest, on quick recap. There is no right and wrong to this, because if you want that gold tint, it's impossible to do as in modelling from using what we've got, because it will act like a mirror. The only thing we have said about is obviously using yellows and oranges, clear coats, to give you that type of effect. But with that gold specific colour they've got, from a modelling point of view and what we've got, we can't really understand how you would get that precise effect. There is canopy manufacturers out there that have that sort of have look, and all the rest of it have that sort of tint to them. But from a modelling point of view of saying, oh, just or spray it, very, very difficult to do. But as I was saying, the clear, I would add a touch of orange to it perhaps, to give it that colour. And do that with it. That would be my way of doing it, but I don't think it is so much going to give you that goldy tint that they really have. It's very, very difficult one to pull off, that one, if we're honest, but that's how I would do it. I would do yellow, few drops of orange in there just to give you that tint, mix it with a little bit of clear to make it more translucent, and then either dipping or spraying it on and then dip afterwards to give you that type of look. That would really be my way to do it. But to get that true gold, I think pretty much impossible unless somebody's got food colouring that's gold and various things to try and do it that way. Do they do a gold version?
No, I wish they did. I keep hoping
Yeah,
that
that'd be the one.
with that.
Yeah, if Alclad did come out with them, or as you say, you know, MRPs or anybody else like that, which has those nice ones of them. You say out of Alclad, that's the only colours I've got. I've got the blue, the reds,
Yeah.
you know, and all the clear colours. I've got them in them, but as I say, to try and do that gold tint at the moment, nobody's released anything like that
Almost
one to give you a proper good look at it.
Impossible.
Yeah,
Only
very difficult.
is to go for the AFV club if they do it. I know you've got one. Yeah. Buy one of their aftermarket canopies. But I like.
But even that, it's not the glue. It's not the that colour. I've got the Have Quick one down here somewhere for it. Here it is. And as you can see, yeah, we've spoken about on this one before. Like this one on one of the cameras too. It's got this pearlescent colour you can see on there, but it's not the goldy tint you see on those navy ones. That's the trouble with it. You can see it there. It looks lovely, but actually, when it's on a clear bit, I don't know if you'd really even see it. It has certainly that pearlescent tint to it, but it's not like the colour he's thinking of. I know the ones you get F-16s have at the front end.
Have you got the ones that you can get for the F-16?
Yeah, well, I was just showing it there. I've got the one for the F-117, but they're all the same type of that type of funny colour.
Different ones for that different colour, the FV ones.
Because it's like a pearlescent-y type of effect. That's what they've got to them. It's quite a clever little thing. Right, we'll come back to you, Steve. We'll just go through. Do you want to do the next one, Hans? And we'll come back to Steve once he's brought it up.
Sure. I guess let me swap some cameras here real quick. All right. So the next one is from Michael Leiden. And it's a quick question on masking tapes. During the video, Phil described the neat, unthinned coat that he usually uses when masking. As I do a shed load of masking and suffer repeatedly from paint seeping under the tape, can you elaborate on the dry method? Anytime I try and the paint, it spits or leaves a rough finish. What pressures are you spraying at? I only use Tamiya acrylics with the Mr. Hobby thinners for small pieces of, let's see, Mr. Color.
Okay, well, I'll explain my one, and then you can show him on yours, Hans. When I do it is literally, when I spray neat, it's actually properly neat paint. So it is literally just neat paint, straight from the bottle, Tamiya or guns, high air pressure. So yeah, I am shooting it maximum air pressure, which is coming out, which is probably around about, I don't know, 30, 35 PSI. And that's enough to atomize it and put it down. And don't forget, this is just to get it on those small little areas. And because it's a thick and it's high air pressure, it's drying almost before it's get there. So you can get a rough texture to it and everything else like that. It's not the best way. Hans is going to show you the professional way of doing it. Mine's more the speedy way of doing it. But yeah, literally just neat paint. And that way, because it's a thick and it's a dry, by the time it hit the canopy, it's got nowhere to bleed to because it sticks to whatever it touches instead of wet and seeping under tape. But anyway, Hans now will show you the professional way of doing
it. Sure. So, best trick, of course, on the camera is a little tricky, but laying down your tape on a straight edge is the first trick, is just aligning it with the canopy seam as best as you can right there.
Yeah.
But then the hard thing is he gets that underspray right in these edges right here. But what I do is I take a cocktail stick and just, it doesn't have to be a lot of pressure, but gently rub this edge right alongside right here. Mm-hmm. And just lay it flat, it's got a tapered end, and just gently rub that edge in until you can actually see the tape tightening up when you do that. Okay. Then when that's done, I tend to overspray everything with just a clear coat, a very, very misty coat, just a clear coat. And the clear coat will actually seal this edge in. And he's talking about using Mr. Hobby self-leveling thinner. Self-leveling thinner on Tamiya tape does tend to eat on that glue of the tape itself. So you got to be careful. If you do it really wet, it starts to eat underneath that tape. You can see the edge right here that they just rubbed in just gently.
Yeah.
But just, you know, a little clear coat, you know, some acrylic clear coat will take care of that seepage, and then gently airbrush anything over it. Don't flood the paint on these edges because it will seep no matter what you do. But clear coat helps a lot. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Lovely.
Okay.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, absolutely. Steve, you want to do the next question?
Yeah, they do. AFE could do, if it's the half glass 2 that you have to do a series of canopies. And you can see that there's got a hint of gold to it, but it's not got to be really gold. So
Yeah.
it could be an option.
Cool. Do you want to do the next question, Steve? Because I have an answer for it. I hope so.
Down to number 11, aren't we?
Hold on.
Yeah,
Yep.
number 11, mate.
Right, number 11 from Trevor Williams. Is it possible to mix metallic paints, MRP or some other metallic, with non-metallic paint, so it would end up with, say, a red metallic colour?
Right, okay, so I have literally, I'll tell you what, so let's try and make a metallic red. So the thing is, if you're going to try and mix a lacquer-based paint into acrylic, it will go because the lacquer will eat into it. But this is a synthetic acrylic, i.e. it's not a true acrylic. It's not literally water-based. That's why this stuff's flammable and all the rest of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a brush full of red. Okay, and we're just going to chuck in here a couple of drops of white aluminium by MRP and just see what happens. Just do this without making a huge mess. Okay, so sorry, wrong one. Where are we? That's it, number 3. Okay, so we're just going to take a couple of drops down into here. Okay, now the thing is, because these are lacquer based into technically a non-lacquer finish, this should make a paint that will work as long as you mix it all the way into itself. And as we can see, it is mixing with no problem. But would this work with something else like a true acrylic? I'm not sure, but I can see the metallic fleck in that paint. I don't know if you guys can see it. Now I'll pull through, right? There we go. So yeah, you can mix it, but as you can see down the bottom, it is trying to separate on itself, but it's lacquer based. But as you can see, you do end up with quite a smooth paint. So you can mix in an MRP or a lacquer based paint into an acrylic, as long as, I would say, it's a synthetic acrylic. You guys agree? Or is this the first time any of you have seen it done?
Yeah, I've never.
Yeah, I haven't tried it, but it sure looks like it works just fine. You know,
It's all covering in here with no. It's not like
Yeah.
rippling up. You can see it on the outside here. It's going on there quite smooth. The thing
Yeah.
is that, you know, technically it's going to thicken up this paint because it's going to dry out the acrylic paint in here really,
Yep.
really quickly. But you can see it has done it.
Yeah,
so yes, of course you can, but I
was
wouldn't
gonna say, Phil,
Yeah.
you probably want to put some retarder in there, right? Because it's going to dry out that acrylic paint very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's the problem with it. You are going to dry out the acrylic, and if it's in your airbrush, I imagine what's going to happen is the acrylic is going to suck the life out of everything as well as it's mixing, and then it evaporates dry. So even when you're going to spray in it, I imagine you're probably going to end up with a very rough texture. Because really it's not designed to do it. If you can, really what you want to do is mix an acrylic, something like an MRP with an MRP normal paint, you'll have no problem at all. So if you want to mix a metallic into a red from MRP, it'll work very, very well, no problem at all. But when you cross doing things like an acrylic or a synthetic acrylic into a lacquer-based paint, then you're always going to have that little inconsistency. So if you can, like for instance, AK Extreme Metals is probably the weirdo one of them all. You might have trouble mixing that into various bits and pieces, but if you want to make a metallic silver, I would use, technically something like perhaps, I don't know what we got in there. I can't remember what the colours are because I don't know. Like XF16 aluminium into a little bit of XF7 red, you'll get a metallic red colour. And it'll work very well together and have no problem. Then you can thin it with your normal thinners and go off with it like that. But when you start to sort of cross-contaminate paints, they're not really designed to work well together. So they will do it, but they're going to complain and grumble about doing it, I think.
If it's just acrylic paint, especially in Fios, I've just tested it. They have got a big paint set of theirs, and they do this stuff called metal medium.
Right. I've never heard of that.
You can actually mix that with their paints, and it gives you a metallic look to it.
Oh, right. So what's the number of that particular one?
It is 70521. Metal medium. Now I've mixed it with a bit of red, and it lightens it quite a bit, so you'd only need a little bit. But yeah, it's got a little metallic shine to it now.
Oh, very nice.
I don't know which.
I've never heard of that stuff. That's a new one on me.
Model colour set. So you'll have a pop film. Did you buy the model colour set?
I did. I don't know where it's around the other side actually. You mentioned that. I'll have to have a look afterwards, see if it's in there. Yeah. See, that's new. Definitely. Right, okay, so next question is Ralph. Hi, Phil, Steve and Hans. This evening I was working on my A10 whilst listening to the second part of the P51 build. My ears pricked up when I heard Phil mentioned his eagerness to bring the new younger modelers into the hobby, and I had a thought. Have you considered a father, son or daughter, a grandfather, grandson or granddaughter, uncle, nephew, niece, this is going to go on, a fun group build? I could even involve some of the Snap kids and their parents. The trouble is they're a little bit older now. Any ideas for the group build to promote building of an egg kit, sci-fi, car, plane, kit, and so forth and so on. It is a good idea. We did mention it before, but as was pointed out by all of us, our kids have either disappeared off the face, we're a bit old for it, or don't really want to get involved with it. But it is a very good idea. I don't know about a full group build, but we could definitely do a SIG, perhaps with prizes for the kids. I'm quite happy to do. So definitely something we did all think was a good idea, but personally from our point of view, bit of a tough one to sell to the kids when they're in their 20s. Yeah, but definitely I think what we'll do is we'll keep that on the back burner just for the moment, get us into the summer and everything, and perhaps we could have a special SIG around a particular date and event, and I'll organise something for the kids who get it done and finished and everything else like that. Perhaps a special medal for them or something.
How about doing it Father's Day?
Yeah, but it's different all around the world, isn't it? Father's Day in the UK is different from the US one.
Oh, for the UK one.
Right, whatever that is.
Usually around the 20th of June. So
right, okay, well perhaps we'll organise something for Parent Day. Don't they have a Parent Day or like Grandparent Day as well?
Or maybe a fun build weekend or something, I don't know.
Yeah, all right. But what I will do, I will organise something for the kids who complete. We'll do something special for them because I think that would be a nice touch. And hopefully we can get some in. Failing that, we don't recommend going out on the street corner and dragging kids in because I think they actually classify that as kidnap. And it's frowned upon in some certain countries. So, you know, yeah, you have to be careful with that one. But we will get something sorted. I think it's a good idea. I think we all agree on that.
Grandkids, don't you? Or, you know.
Yeah, they'll love it, honest. I don't want to do it. Yes, you do. You have no choice. You've got to. I want the medal. Just pretend you've done it. I can see it now.
Just here.
Right, go on then, Hans. You want to read the next one?
Sure. The question is from Eric Westra. My question is this: is everybody doing the markings on the tips of propellers wrong? I mean, all built models have the tips of the propeller sprayed on both sides. Even the models built by pros in magazines or the internet. By Mustang, after I had finished it, I showed it to a person who've done a restoration of a real Mustang, and he said that the tips are never sprayed on both sides. It would drive the pilot crazy. So what do you think about this? Have a great
Well, there we
show.
go. There's the slideshow. We spoke about this earlier, and I had a quick look on the internet, and I found some pictures. And as you can see, most of them have got the warning marking for the prop on the inside and the outside, but not all of them. What we've come to agree, because we're experts clearly, is that it's probably more of a peacetime thing than a wartime thing. Because in wartime, most people walking around an aircraft would know where the dodgy bit is, let's face it. But as you can see on these pictures, especially that one, apparently if I press P, it stops. No, it doesn't. Okay, but yeah, all these different areas around here, as you can see, like that Spitfire, you can see clearly it's got them on the inside. And then obviously on this Mustang, it's got the big paddle ones, it's clearly on the inside. We're thinking it's probably more a peacetime thing, having them both sides. So anybody walking around the dodgy end of a Mustang knows that to be careful. Obviously that's the Sharpie bit. But in this shot here, clearly you can see two of them have got it, the rest don't. And obviously Spitfires, you do tend to find the European stuff has them both sides no matter what. But I think we all were sort of agreed, weren't we guys, that it's definitely a peacetime thing rather than a wartime thing. In the war, I can't imagine they were worried about it at all. And they probably didn't have it on the inside, perhaps just the outside. Modern day ones, probably health and safety and all the rest of it, they're probably made to have them. But it seems to be the European ones all have them on the inside and the outside. The US ones tend to be a little bit hit and miss, both sides of them. But yeah, again, it's going to be one of those things where I'm probably sure there's no right or wrong to it and everything else. So a good question there, Eric. We're not sure, but as you've seen by the pictures, you can take your pick. Okay, all right, Hans is all queued up for this one. I'll do this one. Great to see the live show back. This is from Glenn. Like the new format and the questions. Question is, what is the best way to give the bleached look to sunburnt paint, i.e. olive green? Go for it, Hans.
Yeah, so just a little example. I love MRP paints, as you guys know, but it does separate like gangbusters on you. But if you look at an olive green jar like this, you can actually tell the makeup of the different colors that they use to make up these shades. So if you look at the bottom, you can clearly see some yellow right here, right? And in this one, there's like a little bit of hint of blue and a little bit of gray. So anything, if you look at a faded kind of armor vehicle, they have like little bits of yellowish tint to it. And you'll see some gray tones in it. And basically, I would just do a little post shading with just a little hint of yellow in the paint and sharpen up that look. So that's just a little example right there.
Yeah, no, that's a good example actually. Very, very well done. I'm looking at mine. Some of them are like rainbows.
Yeah. So it's just what I like about these paints is you can really tell how they make up the colors, right? At first I was like, I can't believe how they separate, right? But even this one, this is an olive drab. You can see on how much
blue and gray,
how much bluish gray is actually in there.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with the paint as it hits the sun, and it just slowly but surely fades. All these different tones that the paint is made up of starts to pull out, right? And so you're just mimicking that color. But just a hint of yellow is a good start.
Cool. No, very good. I must admit that definitely looks very nice in there. So I was just thumbing through questions. Hi, Steve. Do you want to do the next one?
Yeah. So I'll just scroll down. Oh, it's a nice long one to read out from Chris Roscoe. Currently stuck on doing the base for the Trumpeter Soviet light railway wagon in 1/35. I'd like to do the rail sunken into the earth, or maybe snow stroke ice, as they seem to be appear like this on most photos he sees online, as it would mean not having to fix the issues on the supply track bending. Thought I would use a track, a sleeper, though I would use the track sleepers from the kit, so I don't want to use the track yet. Any ideas and tips on how to do it? And this, I've put a link for a picture. I've got any to hide. What you can use is, you know, the blue foam board that you can get.
Yeah.
Forget it's got a special name. You can get this blue foam board that a lot of modelers use for bases. Now the beauty of that is you can carve into it, and you can actually then be able to sink the tracks down into the base. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is put the track and the sleepers onto your base, and then build up around it. Use you can use plaster of Paris, or you can use modelling clay. Modelling clay is exceptionally good for this sort of thing, because you can move it, sculpt it, get it how you want, and then you basically sinking the tracks down. Your tracks down, you build up the clay around it, so your tracks will appear as though they've sunk down. So when you put your train in there, you can have all mud, so it's coming up. You can do that. You can use ballast, put your ballast in there. Again, if you're using snow, that's another good way of doing it. Oh, where's my? I've got this snow stuff, which it's there, which is this ice and snow. This is the wash. They do a normal snow powder, and you can mix the powder with what do you call it? Clear silicone. You mix it up, and then you put it on there, so it gives you an impression of deep snow. So you can obviously a bit of artistic license how you apply it, but then you can have it as though it's drifted up to the side of the tracks onto the wheels, so it gives you that winter effect, so this nice deep snow. So that's another possibility. But yeah, there's quite a few out there, but I'd use modelling clay, a foam board, to build up the earth and give it that sunken down look.
Yeah, cool, very good. Right, okay, where are we? Next page, right. Alex says, hi guys, a question about Luftwaffe camo. I'm just about to start on Edar's 148 scale BF 109G6. I know German air crews were given some freedom when it came to mottling their planes. My question is, are they mottled after delivery of the plane with the factory livery? And therefore, would the mottling be over the small stencil data? It seems the main decals insignia were avoided by mottling. But what would you mottle before and after applying the small stencil data, Alex? I'll let Hans do this one, because I thought you had the best answer for this one, Hans.
Sure. By no means an expert, but some modeling, of course.
It sounded good to me.
Some modeling, of course, is applied at the factory level, and then they do their stencils. I think, especially in the Russian front, when they did a lot of modifications to their paint, it was applied in the field. During wartime, a lot of folks don't necessarily care too much about what the rules are, no matter how many pieces of paper the Germans generated, and people are just painting straight over it. So best trick to do is, if you really want to do an exact aircraft, is finding a picture, an image somewhere from history that you can use and mimic after it. Hard to see if the stenciling is there in a black and white image, but with that said, I bet you they'll paint over them. Sometimes they're avoided. I think most of the crews that work on these aircraft don't even read the stencils. They know they work on those aircraft day in, day out, under stressful conditions. I don't think they sit there and read the stencils, but that's just my my personal opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
No, I think that's probably the best one. And like we were saying, that, you know, different times of the year, obviously they might have a winter camo put on. I'm sure they wouldn't give a toss really about stencil data when they were going from winter camo and then bringing it back to summer, or, you know, springtime camo, taking, you know, it would have just gone right over the top, no doubt, and all the rest of it. I could be standing correctly totally on this, but I'm sure, as you say, in wartime, stencil data, very much like if you look at Phantoms during the Vietnam era, factory fresh. A Phantom is covered in stencil absolutely everywhere, but very rapidly, I think during touch-ups and maintenance, especially the naval stuff, all of that goes out the window, and the important ones obviously are left on there, but the general ones are probably painted right the way over, and no one's going to worry about putting them back. Colin says, hi, have you used a Mr. Tool Cleaner R? I find this the best for deep cleaning my airbrush. Disclaimer, it destroys rubber O-rings in minutes. Nothing else I've tried is as good. Colin. Personally, no, I've never used it. I don't think Hans has used it, or Steve.
No.
Steve, you used it?
No, I'd stick to normal cellulose.
Yeah, I must admit, when it comes to cleaning, cellulose thinners is pretty as hot as I want to go. I don't think I want to go in anything that can eat rubber that quick. Really, it can't be doing much good for everything else in there. But sorry, Colin, can't comment more on that because I've never used it, so I wouldn't know.
That's cellulose, actually. Some kind of cellulose.
Oh, it's got to be a hot lacquer, isn't it? If it's eating O-rings. Anthony says, or Tony, I should say, hi guys, a question re zero paints and which lacquer to use. I've been building the 124 scale Rebel Mercedes-Benz AMG GT for the Made in Germany group build. And I have bought some lovely, genuine match AMG solar beams, is that what they call it? Yellow from Zero Paints. This is a hot product and comes as a base coat and a pearlescent top coat. My question is this: I'm unsure which lacquer to use. According to the suppliers, you can use pretty much anyone's lacquers. I'm leaning towards the Zero lacquer to match the paint, but they do it in 3 types: clear coat lacquer 1K or 1-pack, 2-pack gloss clear, which is obviously 2K, and 2K diamond coat. I want a great finish, but I also want something to be easy to apply and at the same time gives good results. Do you have any experience using these products? Any advice for me? Thanks in advance, Tony. Now, to be honest, no, is my simple answer to that. I've used 2-pack gloss lacquer, but diamond coat, I'm assuming this is something that's rock hard as nails, that's why they call it, but it's going to be just a normal gloss coat, isn't it? Or 1-pack, 1K lacquer. Basically, the way it works, I'm no expert, we need Matt here for this, but 1-pack is a normal air drying type product, like anything you would normally use. So i.e. it dries naturally. Okay, if it's a 2-pack, it means it's a 2-part, so you have the paint will not go off without a hardener, and that's what it is, and that's why you mix a 2-pack product together, be it 1-to-1 ratio, 1-to-2 ratio, because technically it's a hardener being put into it, and that's what makes it go off. So it's a chemical action going off rather than just air drying and all the rest of it. As for the diamond coat, I'm assuming that's just an extra hard version of it. Again, what you work with, normally don't forget if you're using 2-pack, they tend to be quite nasty. So think health and safety, definitely use a respirator. If you've got a spray booth, just make sure you use it and all the rest of it. 1-pack lacquers and all the rest of it, air drying one, not normally as nasty and everything else like that. But again, have a look at our gloss tutorials about it, because in there I use 1-pack, 2-pack. You can go back, I use 2-pack glosses on the Dreamliner build. The big one I used it for though was the bike, when we did the actual the motorbike, to give us that glass finish to the paintwork. But Hans, you're our resident gloss person.
I would just use the single K clear coat. He's asking, he wants something that's fairly easy to use. I would stick with a 1K and just do it the easy way. I'm not familiar with Zero Paint too much. I've only used it once on an F-16 Dutch display aircraft, and they spray beautifully, but I didn't use a clear coat on that one specifically for Zero, or that Zero Paint makes. I just used, I think I ended up using, I want to say, all-clad clear coat, semi-matte ALC 312 is what I used. I bet it's this guy right here.
Yeah.
That's what I used. And that, granted, this is semi-matte because it's aircraft. He wants full clear or gloss. I would say, I bet you this would be a good option. Is all-clad gloss clear coat ALC 310 is what I would shoot. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can show that. There we go.
Definitely. The other one is, Steve, what did you use for yours for the Dolphin? Your gloss coat was...
Dolphin, yeah, I used 2-pack, which luckily was supplied by Matt, which uses on normal automotive. So you basically, the best stuff to go for is the easiest has got to be the 1-pack. 2-pack, you need to measure it, 'cause it's usually 2 parts of the cloth to 1 part of the hard. So you need to start measuring it. If you don't measure it correctly, it's not going to go off. So that's a bit more effort into using it. But the best thing is, if you are using a lacquer varnish, is afterwards you can sand it, you can polish it, you can use polishing compounds that are like equivalent of like T-cut or something. You can cut it back. Uses it micro mesh, so you can start off say 600 grit and polish it all the way up to 12,000 grit. It's a really smooth finish. So definitely lacquer's the way to go. You could have just buy an aerosol lacquer, go Halfords, buy a spray can, just put nice gentle coats over the top, and then if it is slicing, again just polish any imperfections out and end up with a beautiful finish. But lacquer thin is definitely the way to go for any cars, because it gives you it's more shine.
I think also, like I when I did my Q&A on the Wednesday, I said on there that the one time you would use rattle cans because you get that perfect finish with it is for cars, because you could just spray the shell, and then obviously if you're putting it on, you can just spray it all over like Steve was saying, then you can let it go off, look at it, if you've got imperfections in it you can polish them out, and all the rest of it, then you fit it to the rest of it. The great thing is as well is that if you're using a decent lacquer type one, it's going to be really hard. So you're not going to be able to scratch it like you can with like an acrylic or something else like that. So it gives you a nicer, glossier finish, which is what you want for a car, not necessarily for any type of aircraft or anything else like that. Okay, Eric says, love the new changes to the forum and the video content. Keep up the great work. My question is mostly for Hans. Do you use the MRP range of paints, and how does it work for you? I'm in a similar environment, and I have had struggles, mainly with gritty finish with the airbrush at altitude. I'm using an Iwata airbrush, as well as the Vallejo model AK Extreme Metals and occasionally Tamiya paints. I've experimented with flow enhancers, extra thinning and alternative airbrushes settings, but only achieve moderate successes. Interested in the new range of colours being a bit pricey, especially the MRP, as they probably also need to install a new additional extractor. I'm definitely willing to make the investment if I have to spend so much time fussing around with the paint, if it works well. Thanks. Go for it, Enhance.
All right, trying to get all my bottles.
Just out of interest, what altitude are you at?
Right now I'm at 6,500.
Do you get a nosebleed?
Yeah, sometimes. So thanks for posting that question. A lot of folks in Colorado are struggling with very dry air, especially in the wintertime. I'm actually, funny enough, I'm getting a humidifier installed for the whole house, basically, because it is so dry. My fingers are constantly drying up. Skin is always dry, so there's zero humidity during the wintertime. The heat just sucks it right out of the house. So whole house humidifier might be an option, although very expensive. But you know, the trick with painting is using retarders, right? Is to get that smooth paint. So here's some examples to just walk through, and then we'll talk a little bit about just general airbrushing. But for MIG ammo and Vallejo type paints, there's this particular flow enhancer right here that works really well. It's just a retarder, 62065, works really well. Just maybe like 1 or 2 drops in your color cup will do it. And then I use MIG Ammo's own thinner, which actually, to me, it seems like there's some retarder in it. I use this a lot with hand painting and just do a couple of little drops. You know, I just flip a cup, flip a pot over like this upside down.
Yeah.
And just do like 1 drop in here, and then just a little drop, 2 drops of Vallejo paint or MIG Ammo paint, and then hand brush it, and it flows beautifully. And then lately, Tumi is now coming out with its own paint retarder for their acrylic range right here. So for those types of paint, whoops, I'm a little bit too close to the camera right there. Let's go backwards here.
Yeah.
So that's that set right there. I haven't played too much with it, but it works pretty well. And then the last one that I use is just a straight enamels flow medium for acrylic paint that works really well with Model Air right there. Oops.
Yeah.
So those are all sorts of solutions on using, basically slowing down the curing of the paint and just basically adding more moisture, if you want to call it that, to the paint so it can actually flow, self-level first, and then you know, dry itself. In regards to using Mr. Paint, I'm quite a convert of that stuff. As you can see, there's quite a collection of Mr. Paints.
Yeah, you're doing well.
Slowly but surely building it out. As you can see, there's plenty of other kinds of paint. But yeah, I talked to Phil and Steve extensively when Mr. Paints came out and bugged them to death, as he will attest to.
It's his fault.
Let me flip my camera over here real quick so I'm back on camera. But yeah, I love Mr. Paints. But with that said, let me swap over here. No single paint range will solve your problem with having that much dryness where you get the really, really rough kind of spattery kind of look or grainy finish. What I think is happening is you're spraying too far away from the model. When that happens, when you see that gritty finish or almost like sandy finish, you should be coming closer to the model itself. You know, personally, I spray at very low air pressures, probably in the 12 psi range. I rarely go over 18, and I'm probably as close as 1.5 to 2 inches away from the model when I spray my paint. So as the paint travels through the air, it starts to dry, and especially if you have more air pressure, of course, it moves faster, dries even quicker towards the model. So as soon as you see that happening, you want to be closer in, thin down your paint. I usually shoot 50-50 mixes is where I start. I usually bring it all the way up to 60, if not sometimes 70% thinner to paint ratio. And I think once you start looking at that, that will help you out. The other thing that I would recommend is there's quite a long post that I put up on the forum, talks about how to get that professional paint finish that we all desire. Take a look at that, read through it, talks about paint mixing, talks about really doing a good job in you know, using let me grab one of these guys here, one of these paint shakers. You know, Phil knows that I'm a big convert of this. I've been bugging
one over here.
You know, mechanically shake your paint. There's a reason why professional painters use these. If you go to an automotive paint shop, they don't shake them by hand. They stick them in a mechanical shaker. Paint really needs to be shaken up really well, so all the paint pigments are properly suspended throughout the whole flow medium. That makes a huge difference, especially with Model Air and MIG. You know, there's a lot of separation in these bottles. It's really thin on the top. You got to shake them to death, basically. A lot of people just kind of take a shortcut right there, but I'm a big proponent of just shaking the heck out of paint, and then just properly, in your airbrush, put a little thinner in there, then put the paint in, then put a little retarder in, stir it in your paint cup, and then shoot. And I tend to use I call these sticky boxes. These are my just shipping boxes, and I put sticky back tape on there, put my part on there, and I paint on the side of the box, which is just rough cardboard, just to see if you get good flow. And Phil does that all the time. You see him in all his videos doing a quick test spray to make sure that it's the proper mix ratio before he commits to paint on the model. So hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, definitely. Very nicely done, Hans. Right, Steve, do you want to do the next one?
Yeah.
Number 20, Glenn.
Another long one from Glenn, yeah. Norway modeling. Really like your new short, making it short and sweet. Right, first question. The Hasegawa 1/32 P4. I'm struggling to find the colour for the underside. It's called Azure Blue, and it's way too dark. Any suggestions? The second question he's asking is, how does he upload pictures onto the forum? And the third and most important, Starfighter. Now we're talking of some spaceship. We're talking a hairy fish on board piloting it. LOL, kind of bad jokes. Okay. The 104, F104 is by Italere. I have a little weird relationship with this type of jet. You see here in northern Norway, in the outskirts of Narvik, where I live, just up the hill from my house is a German F104. And it crashed in a swamp after it ran out of fuel. The pilot was either dead or passed out long before it hit the ground, making a huge hole in the swamp. Still can be seen to this day. They thought it was oxygen poisoning, but I have read that it was not conclusive. It flew on autopilot from Germany on its own. This is some years in the past, but when I was a young boy, we watched the Norwegian Air Force airlift the wreck down, stored it in a parking lot, store it, given a link to it. Model kit to me looks very nice, and yes, quite long.
Right,
So,
there we go. Hans, hold yours up.
Oh, sorry, I was shaking the heck out of mine.
Yeah, so was I. So this is what we were talking about, is Azor's Blue. We were talking about this before we obviously came on air, and we were saying, if you look at Hans's, how blue his is, that's obviously the Vallejo one. The AK one is a little bit lighter, okay, but still very, very blue. And then the MRP one is, well, we think the closest colour, but we're not that, we're not experts on this. But you can see what we're saying about where different paint manufacturers have their own ideas on what colour it should be. So yeah, that's the trouble with it, as you can see. Take your pick with Azor Blue. It's one of those things. Different manufacturers have different ideas of what paint colour it should be. We were saying that the MRP one looks about right. It seems about the right lightness. The Vallejo one looked way too dark. I'm saying the AK one, it may spray lighter by the time it's thinned, but when I've seen obviously references and all the rest of it, it does look to be this more sort of purpley blue colour that the MRP one has got. Seems to be quite right, but it may be different when it's sprayed. As I say, we're only looking at it via the bottle. So yeah, take your pick really out of this one. You're saying yours is way too dark. Yeah, we would agree.
Yeah.
The one looks like it, so you might want to lighten it up. But if you look at the MRP one, you can see it has this sort of purple hint to it. It's more purpley than blue in some ways. It's a weird colour.
Yeah, personally, I think that's much more close to where it should be. It has that purplish tone in it, and it's much lighter, almost grayish. The AK is way too blue.
Yeah.
Granted, most of the color images that you find in World War II are colorized, so people have interpreted the color. So it's very difficult unless you find a Spitfire or a Hurricane with that color on it, an original paint, which, very difficult to do. Even any kind of restored model, or not models, restored aircraft in a museum, it's very difficult to tell if that was really, truly the original color on that aircraft. So,
Okay, so second part of the question is obviously uploading for the photos. We've got videos and loads of tutorials about doing that. If you have a look in the forum, in the little forum help section thing in there, you will see all about it. And it talks about, we've been speaking about it recently because some of the guys are saying about if we could host image hosting and stuff like that. Probably not. It's not something we really want to go down. But as you say, there's photo buckets out there, there's Flickr, and then what you can do is you just take the embed code, the image code, and you can actually use it on the forum to do your things. That's probably how most people tend to do it around here. And then the other thing, obviously, about the Starfighter, which just so happens, Hans has it.
Yeah, I've been collecting bits and pieces for a long, long time. My dad used to do a lot of work on Dutch Air Force bases, and we used to see F-104s all the time, close up. I used to play around in them, all that good stuff. But I've been buying bits and pieces for it for, God, over a year now. Just slowly but surely collecting them. This is the Dutch decal, limited edition. They're printed, made, manufactured, distributed in Holland. I'm looking for this top scheme right here with the shark mouth on it. They're really, really well done. Of course, it has a whole slew of other versions with it, but I'm after the Dutch one. And it's a very good kit. It's very large, as you can see. But slowly but surely, over the year or so, I've been collecting it. Let's see, that's the wheel bay right there. Oops.
Yeah.
A little glare right there. Exhausts. And the wheels from the brass range. And we got the air brakes right there. And yeah, so slowly but surely, right? These things are fairly expensive, so I tend to look for sales and then slowly but surely build it up, find everything. And then my local hobby shop, the owner, I know him very, very well. He gave me, when this kit just came out, he gave me one of the pre-Aries shots that came out of, for us to take a look at. And that's basically just an extra cockpit right there.
Yeah.
And then just to round out, I always like my
color
PE. And finally, I picked up, like at the last IPMS Nationals, I found the pitot tube on sale, so I bought that. But yeah, it's a very nice kit. Some folks, I've looked at the plastic multiple times. But with the Tolery kits, always one of the things to keep a look for is the detail's fairly sharp on the top edge, but on the bottom edges, right here, where the mold tends to always fade. And one of the things that I've also seen is that the panel lines don't necessarily line up all the way on some of the builds that I've seen online. But, it's now that I pulled it out again, this airplane's calling my name. I like it.
It's a nice jet. It's a good jet. And it fits nicely on a shelf because it hasn't got massive wings.
Yeah, they're really nice.
So there we go. Stand by. Hans will be doing that at some point in the future.
Yep.
Definitely. Okay, so Mark says, hi guys, is there a standard amount of time to let a coat of the new version of a future dry before starting work again? Now, we all spoke about this obviously before the show, and we've all agreed if you leave it 24 hours, you'll be fine. You can get away in 12 and all the rest of it, but definitely we would say 24 hours is a good amount of time to let it go before you're going to start work on it. It says specifically thinking about when you're starting decals. I was working on some kits before Christmas and was in a hurry, sprayed a coat of Future and waiting about an hour. The decals went on, but they didn't adhere very well and had some flaked off. I was using microsalt as well. Could this ever go bad? We're thinking chances are it was because you were really, really quick with your decaling. What can happen, with your Future, if you put microsol onto it, it can get milky and go, what it is, it's where it hasn't totally gone off, and then it's like a mild acid in microsol and things like that has physically started to sort of re-soften the actual Future around, so you need it to totally go off. And we were speaking before where I've taken shortcuts and obviously you don't do it and it comes back and bites you. Again, this is one of those things where You could probably get away with a good, like an evening. So if you put it down during the evening, come back the next morning, you'd be absolutely fine to go with it. But I would do the thing of like clear coat going down and on, leave it for 24 hours, come back. You now know that's gone as hard as nails. You'd be totally safe. You won't get any of the ring marks and the water marks and everything else that can happen with it as well that using clear can cause. It's literally just because you've gone in there a little bit too quick. And we're all sort of guilty of it. I know I am, definitely, over recent things. But so you take time, let these things cure completely, and you'll be good to go with it. Alrighty, what's Hans setting up for? You must have pre-read the next question. Okay, so John says, "Hi guys, I'd really like to see a show actually cleaning your airbrush after using floor care rather than just describing it. I see the question many times asked and actually demonstrated showing the use of it. I'm just putting up the question to bed. And of course, no problem if this is too much trouble. Not at all." Go on then, Hans. I'll show on mine as well. Are you muted, or have I lost
Yeah, hold on, sorry.
Right.
I was trying to find everything in my bench here. So what I like to do is, first of all, anything when you're spraying future, you got to clean your airbrush right away. If you give it a chance to dry, usually you have your airbrush sitting in like a holder like that. It just sits with the tip down, so any kind of future that's left, or even paint, it tends to drip into the nozzle area right here. So I tend to, dip everything out, get rid of it, wipe it clean. Of course, this is depending on what particular airbrush you have, but pull the needle out, get that done, pull the nozzle off, get that out of the way, and then let me go grab missing one tool. There we go. So just a cotton swab like that, and I just dip it. And I like to use this stuff right here, which is Mr. Color. This is their paint restorer, which basically has a little bit of retarder in it more than anything, but it's very close to Mr. Color leveling thinner. So I use that, dip the cotton bud in there, make sure you clean your cup. Let me see if I can rotate this correctly. There we go. Make sure you get it all the way in the bottom right there. Make sure that, and just rotate it around. And you can see some of my goop, Do as I tell you, not as I do, right?
Absolutely.
So there's some leftover paint right there. You can see how quickly I just stripped that out of there. All right. And then I just use the dry piece, roll it around. There comes some more goop. Pitch that right away. And then, again, just dip it in the in this bottle right here. I just grab a little bit and just kind of squeeze it off. You don't need it soaking wet. And then right in the tip right here, just roll it around. And if life is good, I'll probably pull out some more stuff. Yep, sure enough. Right there.
Yeah.
So future, because it's clear you can't see it, but you'll do the same trick, right? You're basically cleaning all that gunk out. Yeah, and the future notoriously is very sticky, right? It's very gummy. Do it right away. Is the most important thing. Do it right away. The easiest way to clean it is just using some Windex and just spray it through. Windex will eat that stuff up like crazy, and it won't do anything to your airbrush whatsoever. The other trick that I do, a lot of people use these. We've got this handy little tool right here.
Reamer, yeah.
The little reamer, right? Very important to gently stick it in there like that. And then just, give it just a little roll. Don't have to push real hard because then you'll split the tip right there. The tip's actually very clear. But with future, if you do this by just gently rolling it like that, you'll scrape the future off the wall, and there will be like a little gunk piece right there. And then the other little trick that I do is I use like a little rolled up piece of paper towel, just dip it in the thinner, and it's just thin enough that will actually go all the way in there like that.
Yeah.
Just like that, and I just roll it around again gently. We'll see if we get something out. Yeah, well, sure enough, here you go. So this is
Yeah,
what
that's it.
actually, that's what clogs your airbrush right there.
Hmm.
You can see that black paint that I didn't clean off, but Futures behaves exactly the same. And it's just even after using the reamer and just using a little bit of paper towel into that tip, I just pulled out the gunk. Whoops, too far. So there's
Yeah.
my explanation, my little demo.
It is, and as I say, I won't bore everyone with me doing it again. But the thing is, it's one of those things where Future, once it dries, as we know on your model, is rock hard. Okay, so you want to get to it before it gets to it. So what I tend to do, to be honest, I don't go as far as Hans does, unless I'm doing a proper deep clean. I will literally blow through. Once it's gone, I'll put my thinner straight in there and I'll brush the entire of the colour cup as well, so it's not stuck to the sides, right the way down. And I use a brush, which I use my stipply type brush, like this little guy here, to get right down there. And I'll go right the way round, make sure it's all clear, and blow through completely with lacquer thinners. That will eat that stuff as well, as long as it hasn't dried in there. Now, in the past, I've done that thing where if it dries in your colour cut, you can physically clean it out with lacquer thinners, all your bits and pieces, and then you can scrape it still because it will not eat it away. So what you want to do is, as soon as I've done any type of lacquering, I blow through there and then. Put the model down straight away, get it out of the actual airbrush, and that way I've never had a problem with it at all. Yeah, I know I've had loads of people say to me, oh, how do you get it out? And I have trouble with it. That thing, if it's still wet, just blow it through and it's fine. You have no problem with it. But again, like Hans was showing, getting in there is really essential. Another thing as well, which is always a good little tip, if you find when you put the reamer in, I know lots of people have the reamer, but if you put the reamer in and it's not easily turning, as in it doesn't just whip round, you've got a lot of crap in there that needs to deal with. Okay, so again, it may be a case of soak it overnight, get in there with a reamer, get it in there. Also, pull the reamer slightly back and go round, and you'd be amazing how much more you'll pull out of it as well. But it should be, the reamer should sit in there and physically flow with no problem at all. If you're having to feel some resistance, that means there's rubbish in there that you need to get out. And it is that thing, the more that there's in there, the more it builds up, and before you know it, you have that trouble with spitting, stopping, starting. Just nothing happens when you pull the airbrush and everything else like that. But a clean airbrush is a happy airbrush, and that's the thing. Look, Hans has got a visitor.
It must be, it must be close to lunchtime.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm being summoned to the kitchen right now.
Yeah, that's it. We're getting there. Okay, so where are we? Where are we to? So just a quick couple of questions down here, and we'll call it quits then for today. And we'll say we'll carry on with the questions next time, guys. So Tony says in there, "Hi Hans, and we think you've got this slightly wrong. On the 1 to 200 scale Bismarck, the wooden deck, did you glue yours?" Actually, it was Stefan who did the Bismarck, but Steve, because he's working on a very similar one, was pointing out they're self-adhesives, aren't they, Steve?
Yeah, they're all laser cut as well. So you just peel off a thin film from the back, and it's all self-adhesive, and it does hold very well. You do have to kind of line it up, and it's not one of these where you get one chance, that's it, you can peel it back. But as soon as the backing comes off, the planking can start coming loose. So yeah, it's got a really good self-adhesive backing. It does a really good job of holding it down.
Yeah.
And I've even, because mine's a blue deck, I had to stain mine from the original oak colour. So I stained it to the blue, and still no problem. It's not affected the adhesive in any way. So yeah, just get it on and stick it down.
Cool, very good. Okay, and Mark was saying, I'm thinking of trying the MRP paints for an up-and-coming links build. Just wondering if MRP have the federal standard number for making the conversion from Humbrol or Tamiya easier. No, they don't. They have said about it. I did speak to Mr. MRP at Telford and said about it, and they were planning on doing one. But the thing is, there is no actual conversion chart for their paints as of yet. We're hoping that perhaps we'll come out with one. I've even spoken about me doing one at some point, and all the rest of it. But it's a big undertaking when you're going to do something like that. So what we would recommend, there is various colours to do. have a look, get in the ballpark of it, and then obviously you can then mix colours to do it. But generally, have a look at their colour range, see what is close enough to it, and go that way. So you can do a little bit of back and forth. But all the MRP range, they're pretty good. They have federal standard numbers, there's BS numbers and stuff like that. So you should be able to get a code, something else like that. And the last one is Andrew. He was saying, hi, I have a question about the zimmerit. What do you guys use to coat your tools to apply it? I'm modelling with the Tamiya Elephant and have the zimmerit sticky back sheets. I've never used that stuff to use with it, but it's a nightmare. So I'm using Milliput, as you can see in the photo, as I'm going to be making it a well-worn looking tank. So my bad workmanship is a happy little accident. Very good. Would it be as it would be falling off as it had come out in the workshop tank? Very good. Have you used those strips before, Steve? With
No, I haven't. I know what he's meaning. We do. It's kind of a. I don't know if it's self-adhesive, but it's just thin zimmerit. I don't know what it's made of. It looks similar to kind of a resin that you stick on the sides.
Yeah.
It's all been cut, so you basically just stick it on, so they'll cut out any lumps or bumps or, you know, vision blocks, stuff like that.
Yeah.
For what he's doing with Milliput, now, I'd suggest probably something like even good old water to stop it sticking, probably. Keep your tool, but it's a matter of you need to keep wiping your tool consistently. Stop it sticking. Another good thing is, I don't know, I know for Magic Sculpt, which is another form of epoxy putty, I use talc to stop it sticking, and then afterwards to smooth out, I just use normal water. So they're probably the two best things you could use. It's just a matter of just keep cleaning your tool as you do it. It's like when I work with oils or anything, I'll be sat at the bench, but on my lap I'll have a roll of kitchen roll. I can just quickly wipe my tool and back to it, quick wipe, and away you go. Yeah, Milliput. I think my preferred one's Magic Sculpt because it doesn't tear like Milliput. It's a lot better.
Yeah, very true.
Epoxy put, yeah. Try using a bit of water, or even just rub a bit of talc on your tool before you do a, you know. So it's just got a thin, not even a dust. You know, if you just dip it in there and knock all the excess off, and then just try it, you know, that might work. No, it'll look good like that because if you think how it feels, a lot of it just fell off. It's basically a kind of sawdust, isn't it? Sawdust mixed with some other stuff to stick it on there. So big chunks did fall off.
Yeah, that's it. The thing is, the more worn it's looking and the more uneven it is, the more realistic it is, isn't it, really? So,
but still with these the stuff, your Tamiya sheets, the zimmerit, if the self-adhesive backing, if it is that, doesn't work quite well, just cut round it anyway. Just use some PVA glue and just put if you dilute your PVA glue, and put a thin coat on it and stick it to your model and just leave it, that'll be solid and stay on there. So that could be an option. Be nice to see, you know, might try and get some in and give it a go time.
Yeah.
Just to see what it's like and just play around with it.
Cool. Very good. There we go. Well, there we go. Hold on. Can we get Hans up full screen? That's how you do it.
There you go.
Nice. Whose kit's that?
That's a Tamiya kit. The thing is, I think honestly, this is way too nice, right? Even at the factory, if they did it at the factory, it doesn't look that nice. If you look at a real King Tiger close up, it's all over the place. And like Steve was pointing out, you know, stuff falls off. It's sawdust with some clay. and it's all over the place, and they just slapped it on, and it was close enough. It's not like a nice race car or something. It's a battlefield modification.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and as I say, we've seen the one obviously at Bollington and the zimmerit coat all on that. And I know it's old and people have been trying to pinch bits off of it, but just looking at the way it is, it's not universal at all. It is literally all over the place on there. So, very nice.
They went through bushes, they took them everywhere, through build, out of knockoff, big chunks.
Yeah, that's right.
Just
absolutely.
Not enough. They're not bothered. They'll be pristine, when you're in a battle, you're not going to be, just, take me boots off so I don't damage it. You just jump on there.
Yeah, definitely. Right, there we go. Well, that will do us. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for our first of our new ones. As I said, this will be our last Sunday of every month. We're going to be doing these shows, the 2-hour ones and all the rest of it. And then, obviously, you can catch this motley crew, as normal, on the site and the various bits and pieces. And I'm still talking them into doing some videoing work as well. So you might be seeing a bit more of them once I can pin them down with thumb screws and cash to get them to be working it all. But hopefully we'll get that sorted.
Hey, you never mentioned cash.
Now, you see him wake up at that point. He's like,
somebody woke up.
Suddenly he's like, hold on, somebody's rattling notes. That's all right. I'm coming up to him, but I'm going to be taking him out to dinner in 2 weeks' time. So you'll be okay. I know you will.
I'm just change booking to where we're going.
There you go.
Oh, is it? We're not at McDonald's then.
No McDonald's for you, Steve.
No.
You can have anything you like off the pound saver menu. You know that.
The path would be nice.
Right, thank you very much for everybody joining us. Obviously, a big thank you for Hans. Now we've got this working perfectly. Look, and
all right.
screen as well.
Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much as well. Pleasure as always.
Yeah.
And obviously, we'll be seeing you guys back here in a few weeks' time for some of the live stuff and the various bits and pieces and getting on. And say it'd be lovely to see Hans' stuff coming together. Obviously, Steve, have you started a build thread on that one yet, Steve?
No. Some of our stuff. I thought, right, I'll get going, and I put it all together. And I thought, oh, codswallop. So at least you can see your bit, then you can see how I finish it. So,
right, okie dokie. Well, hopefully mine. This week you'll get up parts 1 and 2 of mine, and then obviously be pushing through because I'm only solely working on this one. So hopefully I'll be catching up with Steve this week as we make our way through it and everything else like that. So thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Take care, happy modelling, and we'll see you all very, very soon. So till next time, bye. That's it. Thank you, everyone.
We'll see you guys.
Hold on.
Take
Where's
care.
the outro? There it is.